Hello everyone, welcome to my presentation. My project will be about Pixel T5 in the Campic Plateau. As you can see on the map, Pixel D5 is very centrally located in the Campic Plateau, so my pixel forms one of the highest areas, an area with many problems, but also an area with a lot of potential for improvement. It is noticeable that my area is split between the military domain of Donnerslag on the one part and agricultural land on the other. My pixel actually forms the source area of various water flows, such as the Dommel, the Abbeek, the Laanbeek and the Mangelbeek. Because my pixel is positioned so high, this would also be the ideal place to allow as much rainwater as possible to infiltrate into the soil. The most important cause of drought in my pixel is the rapid drainage that takes place in the entire area. Drainage canals have been constructed to keep the military domain permanently dry so that vehicles can easily drive here. At the agricultural fields, you can see that the fields are also drained towards the Dommel. If we take a look at the Ferraris map, we can also clearly read a story of how this drought problem came about. The source area of the Dommel used to be a wetland. Several pools of water absorbed the rainfall and allowed it to infiltrate into the soil. You can also see that there used to be much more forest in the bank area of the Dommel. Now that this area has been completely drained, drought problems are starting to emerge. To restore the natural balance of this area, we need to look back at how it used to be and try to reverse the harmful factors. For example, soil compaction due to intensive cultivation and rapid drainage are factors that should be reduced. On the other part, there are factors such as biodiversity and afforestation that need to be reintegrated into the area. My hobby is judo, and when people think of judo, they often associate it with being aggressive, but this is not the case. It's all about control, both self-control and control of your opponent. Judo is part of the Budo sports, and that's a term that goes way back into the history of Japan and the rest of Asia. Budo sports fall under the principles of the Ahimsa. This word means the path of non-violence. The Ahimsa originates from Eastern philosophy and can be found in both Buddhism and Hinduism. If we were to translate the Ahimsa literally to our agricultural context, we would be dealing with the Rishiketi. The Rishiketi describes how to handle all land without disturbing or destroying it. So my idea was to use these principles to develop a new agricultural model that deals better with the landscape. An agricultural model that is not violent or destructive to the landscape, the Rishiketi tries to cooperate with nature instead of working against it. In doing so, I try to develop an ecosystem that not only improves the climate for the farmers' fields, but which is also better for the water system. To work out my new agricultural model, I chose to start at one specific location. This farm is a good example of how one farmer has to be able to handle a huge area of land, and it is necessary to use heavy machinery to make this happen. In the current situation, the farmer is doing a triple field rotation that alternates between grazing fields, hay fields, and maize fields. Farms like this have dug drainage ditches that can drain the fields quickly to the Dommel, but in my new agricultural model, I let it drain towards the center of the field, allowing the water to infiltrate locally. The result is that artificial fens will now form in the middle of the fields, which were originally also found in the landscape. The next step is to adapt the intensification of agriculture. Flanders has a tendency for fewer and fewer farmers with an increasing surface area, making them increasingly dependent on machines to work their land. I reverse this and try to split the farm into different parts where different farmers can be active. Due to the increase in manpower, the fields can eventually be worked more extensively. In addition, I also adjust the way in which the fields are handled. My agricultural model will, according to the principles of the Ahimsa, disturb the soil as little as possible. I do this by switching to a no-till system, where the farmer does not plow his land. As a result, the natural composition of the soil is not compacted or altered, making it easier for the soil to let water infiltrate. Also important for my farm to be ground-based. By this I mean that the amount of crops and the livestock are balanced. All the food for the cows will be processed locally, so there should be no import or export of animal feed or manure. This also prevents the farmer from getting too large a herd, because if there's too much cattle walking around on a certain area, this causes an enormous compaction of the soil. In order to treat the soil more respectfully, I will extend the rotation principle of my farm even further. I try to involve all vegetable families in my system. This not only ensures a more stable income for the farmer, but it is also very important for the soil. Some plants have longer roots, others rather have short and thick roots. By alternating each year, more pores are created into the soil so that more water can infiltrate again. Last step is that my farm will focus on afforestation and biodiversity. I actually make a protective shell of trees around my farm that protects the fields from wind and sun. Small animals such as hedgehogs will come out of the wooded strips in the evening and will eat the insects in the fields, so that I will have to use less pesticides. At riparian areas, I try to develop a similar ecosystem that will attract frogs for the same reasons. Of course, we have to realize that after my downscaling, these farmers can no longer compete in the general market. Therefore, the farms of my model will operate according to the principles of the CSA. CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture. With this system, customers buy an annual subscription of fresh vegetables from their farmer. In this way, the farmer is assured of a fixed income because the risks are spread out over the farmers and the customers combined. If all of these principles are applied correctly, an agricultural model is created that is ideal for water infiltration. The trees ensure less evaporation, the farmer has a water supply available and will no longer have to pump up groundwater. The water is collected on the fields and not drained, and the soil is more open and will allow water to pass more easily. If this principle is adopted by enough farmers in the area, a completely new landscape will be created. The Dommel is completely surrounded by these new artificial pools, just like it was shown on the Ferraris map. These fans will greatly relieve the Dommel. The trees also ensure that the original riparian area of the Dommel is restored. If we zoom out even further, we can also clearly see that the impact will be on the groundwater level. Water is now collected at the highest point of the Campic Plateau and is locally infiltrated instead of drained. Not only will this increase the water table, but it will also reduce the flood risks of the various streams that originate in my area. In my pixel, almost all the surface area is taken up by agriculture, so I think that integrating a new agricultural model that benefits both farmers and water levels will have the biggest impact on the water level. More attention should be given to the soil and how we use it, because in the end we are all depending on our soil.